Howdy, and welcome back to Morning in the Morning. Before the break, we talked about the horrible amount of grief spread across the nation as the Mars Company revealed that they were putting down the sentient crew of M&Ms. Now, I will be talking about a kids' TV station that nobody cares about. In the research process for my Class of the Titans video, which, if you're a returning viewer, I'm just gonna assume you've seen, I found something that broke my heart. Qubo's dead. Now, some of you watching this might already know that, due to a couple of pretty popular videos on the platform, but this video is about the nostalgia and the life of Qubo, rather than the creepypasta-esque video that cropped up around its death. Maybe I should change the name of the video then. No. This video is going to chronicle both the life and the death of the network. I'm sure this video isn't really needed, but Qubo was a massive part of my childhood, and I need to put it to rest. For myself, anyway. Before Qubo was standing on its own 2 feet, it began as a small television block doing the splits between 2 TV stations in 2006, NBC and Telemundo, and then a week later gaining a third one on Ion. It ran its edutainment block, replacing the preceding blocks, Discovery Kids on NBC and Telemundo Kids. Now, I never actually saw these, or I wouldn't remember seeing them because I was like 3. Nevertheless, they aired plenty of classics. Magic School Bus, 321 Penguins, Jane and the Dragon, Babar, VeggieTales. Fun fact, VeggieTales actually first aired on TV on Qubo. However, the lineup wasn't able to fully flourish on that small of a block, so let's move on to... Qubo really shined its brightest with its standalone channel. Launching in 2008, the Qubo channel, which was part of the Ion network, really ramped up the quality of content they had. Anne of Green Gables, Denver the Last Dinosaur, Sherlock Holmes in the 22nd Century, Class of the Titans, Art Zuka. Dude. This is so bittersweet. So many days and nights watching these programs, enjoying their stories, feeling for the characters. Now they're all gone. I mean, the shows still exist out there, either on streaming services, other channels, physical media, but... Qubo. No, not yet. Not yet. There were quite a few studios, but Nelvana and 9 Story really gave Qubo its lifeblood. To me, anyway. I feel like anybody who watched Qubo always had a go-to, just because of the variety. Channels like Nickelodeon and Disney really felt limited in the types of content that they had. But Qubo had so much on its standalone channel. Add on the shuffling of content they had for the 13 years that they were on air, and you get a large amount of mostly forgotten material. I kinda had this weird bell curve situation when I was younger. At first, I really wanted to watch Cartoon Network and Nicktoons because they felt more mature and exciting. But as I watched them more and more, I grew a feeling akin to homesickness, missing the classic cartoons that I had loved growing up. So when I went back to Qubo and I saw familiar and brand new cartoons, I felt whole. But of course, a bell curve must be completed. So I nestled my way back to the big boys, watching Adventure Time, Gravity Falls, Steven Universe, Mystery Incorporated. I'd forgotten early childhood and evolved into a preteen. Unfortunately, soon enough, I had booted cartoons out of my life for the most part by my teenage years. YouTube was my home for content. But I rediscovered my love for animation with some good, and maybe not so good choices. This led me to remember the old days of watching Qubo late at night. So I turned on my TV and switched to the channel just to find it playing some classics. Like, of course... Damn, this is getting a bit too personal for a retrospective. But you know what? This video is my way of letting go, okay? So, I think it's fine. There's one more aspect that I absolutely need to talk about. So let's move to... Qubo had some memorable bumpers that make me really nostalgic every time I see them. Their branding as a whole was great. This simple but effective approach that I just adore. We're gonna go into the advertisement section here, but before we do that, I want to thank the channels Qubo TV, Fry's Video Archives, Flaming Moe's VHS Archives, and Penguin Video Store. They have done wonders in archiving old Qubo content. Here we have a PSA from 2009, starring Olympic gold medalist Sonia Richards and Jane from Jane and the Dragon about portion control. I love it when commercials try to blend animation and live action. It's the perfect amount of cringe, nostalgia, and respect. In this one from 2021, a few days before, we have a bunch of kids talking about how it feels to be angry. And honestly, this is great edutainment content. A lot of kid shows and YouTube channels are now often there to provide entertainment over education. But with something like this, it reminds me that relatability is so important to early development. Also, this kid is based as hell.
That's the feelings, and I've said it once before and I'm going to say it once again. Feelings are something that you have to let out.
This is Jeff Norman. Ah, Liz Sloan.
Okay, so, I found the perfect PSA commercial. I was looking for early NBC era stuff, but this is so fucking funny, dude. I have to include it.
Persuade the army.
Here's one that I personally don't recognize, but I'm gonna include it in hopes of making at least one person here feel nostalgic. Right near the end, they started airing shorts from a kids' content website known as Battery Pop, and those ranged from, okay, to, oh god.
He's behind the dresser.
There's also the really old Ask Me segments, where a bunch of kids answer a question. I'm not even gonna play a clip for this one. Okay, fine. But only a little. And finally, we're gonna talk about the bumpers. Much like Disney and Cartoon Network, Qubo had some eye-catching bumpers that really hit home seeing them after so long. Now, Qubo had two waves of bumpers, and 2006's were vastly superior. Here are my favorites. Rad as hell. Ooh, Lovecraftian horror. This Qubo is so angy. And just to give you an example of the 2013 bumpers, UFO is the best because of how much it moves the title. I love the simplicity of these bumpers, and I really like the channel branding as a whole. It was easy, you know? It was... Alright. It's time. Qubo fell. Quite far. At its peak in 2012, Qubo suffered greatly when Telemundo and NBC would drop their Qubo blocks. They lost a sizable amount of their available content and reach to potential viewers. Add on the fact that most of their contracts would run dry by 2015 and, well, things weren't looking so good. But they continued to acquire broadcasting rights from one of their providers, Chorus, and still had access to multiple other catalogs. This is the part of the video where I'm gonna mention Qubo Night Owl. It was more mature content that aired between 12 a.m. and 6 a.m. This helped me get through a lot of sleepless nights. For a long time now, I've had sleeping problems. Hell, at this point in writing, it was 6 in the morning.
I'm not kidding.
Qubo Night Owl was there for when I had to just rough it out and hope that I'd get tired eventually. It was there to keep me from going crazy. Shows like, of course, Class of the Titans, but also Carmen Sandiego, Denver the Last Dinosaur, Time Blazers, Babar, Art Zuka, Rescue Heroes, and Alfred Hedgehog? Jesus, I gotta start writing that script. I loved Qubo Night Owl, but it didn't even make it to the end. Night Owl was replaced in 2019 by 5 hours of infomercials. Just cut to the next part. Qubo was without a doubt dying at this point. In 2020, the small Ion Qubo block was reduced, a lot of its core content was being phased out, and then, 7 days into 2021, EW Scripps purchased Ion Network and sealed Qubo's fate. A week later, it was announced that Qubo would cease to exist. And then, on the last day of February, it did. In the middle of an Inspector Gadget episode. Or a Franklin episode, depending on which feed you were watching. And then it was replaced by some random channel that Scripps had lying around. In my case, it was replaced by Grit, a Western programming channel. Fucking cool. And that's it. That's the story. A story no one reported on. One of the only over-the-air children's networks just gone with the snap of a man's fingers. In one of the few articles I could find about it, it was reported that the Scripps CEO just dismissed the channel, claiming that it wasn't mature enough, so he wanted it gone. No shit. It's a kids channel. Kids content is a massive market that has been consistently thriving. YouTube kids channels blow up constantly, bolstering some of the highest viewed videos on the platform. And yes, I know that this success isn't universal. Cable-based channels like Disney Channel and Nickelodeon are crumbling day by day. Part of the reason for that, though, is because people don't want to pay for them anymore. But channels like Ion and MeTV are consistent in their ratings, with some of their sister channels even trending positive, so why remove it? P.P.S. Kids is the only other major over-the-air network, and they really only market to young kids of ages 2 to 8. So make an OTA kids station that focuses on the 7 to 13 demographic. Hell, go all out and make it multi-platform by making an online version, an app, a YouTube channel. It's not a crazy idea because P.P.S. Kids already does this. And yeah, I know an OTA kids channel isn't incredibly profitable, but surely it'd have a better shot over a channel about crime or one that mostly airs C-list reality shows like The Mark Wahlberg Show or Gene Simmons' Family Jewels?
We went to school in a town called Dildo.
And that's where I jump off a cliff.
It hurts. I'm sure it wasn't watched all that much, and most of the people who didn't have cable probably just watched PBS Kids, but I miss it. I miss seeing that little cube bounce around, and knowing that all those shows are now scattered about between different streaming services and websites, and in some cases nowhere at all. It hurts. But there's nothing I can do about it. I wish there was some twist ending to this video. A tease to a brighter future. A triumphant return. But no. Qubo was killed. And all I can do is let it go.